On the day the general and I got married, the woman he loved killed herself in her boudoir. When the servant came to report, he crushed the nuptial cup in his hand. He turned to look at me, eyes full of hatred. Zhang Rui, are you satisfied now? After that day, the general hated me to the bone. Later, when I was dying from a difficult childbirth, he had a servant relay. If she dies, she dies. Don't tell me. I don't want to know anything about her. We're born in this life, I decided to grant his wish. No more entanglements with him whatsoever. When I was reborn, I was sitting collapsed on the ground being helped up by my maid Yunxiang Ji. Yanchen's beloved Su Xiaoxiao gazed at him with tearful eyes, looking so pitiable. Chen, don't hit her anymore. Sister didn't bump into me on purpose. What a pro! With one sentence she directed all the blame at me, and the onlookers all turned to look. The distinguished daughter of the Prime Minister's manor, how can she bully people like this? Just to marry the great general, she forcibly separated a pair of star-crossed lovers. Truly shameless. Su Xiaoxiao buried her head in Jianchen's embrace, and when she looked at me, there was a hint of triumph in her eyes. I clearly remember in my past life, it was the same scene. I covered my swollen red cheek and explained to Jianchen that I didn't bump into Su Xiaoxiao. What did he say back then? He said, Zhangru, one more time and I'll cripple you. Don't think that just because there is an imperial decree I have to marry you. This time I got up and grabbed Su Xiaoxiao, raising my hand and slapping her directly across the face. I used my full strength. Her face was knocked to the side, and she let out a sharp scream. Ji Yanchen hurriedly helped Su Xiaoxiao up, his face cold as he scolded. Jiang Rui, are you crazy? I slowly moved closer to him, looking directly into Ji Yanchen's eyes, saying, word by word. See clearly, this time it was me who hit her. The surroundings suddenly fell silent. I spoke up again. General Ji also knows that our marriage was bestowed by the emperor, right? And now in broad daylight you are holding another woman. If you had to guess, what do you think would happen to you if I went before the emperor to tell on you? Ji Yanchen looked at me in shock, unable to speak for a moment. The crowd seemed to have a sudden realization, their eyes shifting back and forth between the three of us, followed immediately by an uproar. Looks like this young woman seduced a married man. The world really is going downhill. I lightly brushed the dust off myself and continued. Just looking at you two makes me sick. You two are locked in together. I wish you 100 years of happiness. I pulled Yunxiang's hand and turned to leave. Walking out of the alley entrance, a scent of osmanthus flowers hit me in the face. It was already late autumn, and the golden osmanthus throughout the city seemed to have bloomed all at once overnight, with the fragrance of osmanthus flowers permeating everywhere. I took a deep breath, feeling dazed for a moment. When I was 8 years old, Father promised to take me hunting, and I was so excited I couldn't sleep all night. The next day, I fell asleep lying on the grass because I was too tired, and nearly got stung by a poisonous scorpion. It was Ji Yanchen who happened to pass by and saved me. He was only a year older than me, with his hands behind his back, scolding me in an adult's tone. Didn't your family tell you not to sleep outdoors randomly? I suddenly remembered how my dad looked when he scolded me, his beard bristling and eyes glaring, and I couldn't help but burst out laughing. Ji Yanchen's face darkened instantly, and he huffed indignantly. This child is unteachable. After that day, my heart stirred for him. Over 10 years of spending our days together, we developed feelings for each other. Ji Yanchen came from a military family. On the day he led troops to war, I saw him off at the city gate. He brushed away the tear stains on my face, his voice hoarse. Royer, don't worry. I've already asked the emperor for an imperial decree to grant our marriage. When I return, I'll marry you and bring you home. I nodded firmly and waved goodbye. 3 years later, when Ji Yanchen returned victorious, I spotted him at a glance among the grand procession with Yunxiang. He sat tall on his horse, his features as handsome as if chiseled by knife and axe. When he drew closer, I could finally see clearly sitting in front of him was a gentle and tender woman. That was Su Xiaoxiao at that moment. I stared at them blankly. My heart crumpled into a ball. Miss, when we get back, I'll make you your favorite osmanthus pastries. Yunshang followed my line of sight, thinking I was craving it, and said with concern. I came back to my senses, looked at her and smiled. Good. My Yunshang understands me best. Yunshang shyly scratched her head. I grew up with Miss, so naturally I understand you. In my previous life, when I was dying from a difficult childbirth, I learned that Ji Yanshan would no longer care about me. The originally gentle Yunshang tried her utmost to find a way out for me. But in the end, she died under the attendant's blade. How wonderful to live again. My Yunshang is alive and well before my eyes. Returning to the residence, I lay on the couch to rest. Father sent someone to tell me that the emperor would host a banquet for Ji Yanchen tonight, and wanted me to go along. Yunshang, who was carrying a plate of osmanthus pastries, bumped right into the servant who came to deliver the message. Yunshang glanced at me. Miss, are you really planning to? She didn't finish the rest of her words, but I knew. She didn't want me to go. She felt wronged on my behalf. I pulled her hand and smiled calmly. It is the emperor's banquet, naturally, I must go. It is fine, your miss won't suffer any losses. Seeing that my expression showed nothing unusual, Yunxiang continued to serve me the osmanthus pastries. The door creaked as someone pushed it open from outside. Yunxiang looked over at the sound, and when she saw the visitor was Jianchen, her face immediately fell, like an enraged rooster. She put her hands on her hips, ready to argue with him. Yunxiang's tongue had always been sharp, and now seeing me wronged, how could she let it go? In just a few words, Jianchen's expression changed several times. Seeing that Yunxiang had said about enough, I gave her a look. She walked out of the room indignantly. I took a sip of tea. What brings the general here? Jianchen sat down across from me on his own. If you hadn't made a move on Xiao Xiao first, I wouldn't have treated you that way either. His voice softened a bit, his tone clearly hiding some guilt. In my previous life, he let Su Xiaoxiao humiliate me on the bustling street, then turned around and just like now, spoke a few nice words in a soft voice, and I foolishly thought he still loved me. I even asked him in front of all the civil and military officials to fulfill the emperor's marriage decree, completely missing the disdain in his eyes. In the end, Xu Xiaoxiao killed herself, and he came to hate me completely. Only at death did I understand that Jianchen's heart could never be warmed. In this life, I'll never be foolish again. I took a sip of tea and sneered. General, I don't care about your business with Su Xiaoxiao. Since your heart already belongs to someone else, I'll petition the emperor at tonight's banquet to dissolve our engagement. Ji Yanchen was stunned. That is not what I meant. I stared straight at him. Then what do you mean? Didn't you come today to break off the engagement? Ji Yanchen probably didn't expect me to speak his inner thoughts aloud and choked for a moment. He said nothing, so I took it as his acknowledgement. After a long while, Ji Yanchen slowly said, You seem quite different from before today. Someone who has died once is of course different. No time to listen to him continue blabbering. I got up and issued the order to leave. It is getting late, I still need to change clothes. General, please return. Ji Yanchen gave a light hum, his mood seeming somewhat dejected, and even stumbled on the stool at his feet when getting up. I didn't even look. Calling Yunxiang over. Pass down the word. From now on, no idle people are to be let in. Ji Yanchen, who had just walked outside the door, heard my words, his back clearly stiffening for a moment. After Ji Yanchen left, Yunxiang came in to attend to my bathing and changing, and in the evening father and I took a carriage together to the imperial palace. Inside the magnificent palace were displayed exquisite delicacies, and sitting high above was the emperor imposing without anger. His Majesty was very pleased because of the general's great victory, and asked if I had any requests. I looked toward Jianshen. He was also looking at me, disbelief in his eyes. I rose, speaking word by word. I want to break off the engagement and beg your majesty's permission. When I finished speaking, the entire hall was in an uproar, everyone whispering among themselves. How dare she? The rumors in the streets are mostly true, but a good man having 3 or 4 wives is just a common thing. Someone else helplessly shook their head. The Prime Minister's daughter must have gone mad. Ji Yanchen sat to my side. His handsome face flushed the color of pig liver, his eyes looking at me filled with fury. He didn't believe I would actually break off the engagement in public. The emperor then called Ji Yanchen forward. What does the great general think? Ji Yanchen walked down to the hall, kowtowed, and said while holding back his anger, I am willing. The emperor pondered for a moment and said in a deep voice, this matter will be discussed later. Breaking off the engagement today, I knew the emperor would agree. After all, a brave and skilled general marrying the prime minister's daughter would not be a good thing for him. After the banquet, father was summoned by the emperor to the imperial study to discuss matters. I walked on the wide road, the night was dark and the wind was strong. Yungshang tucked in my clothes, when suddenly footsteps came from behind. I glanced back. Ji Yanchen was striding towards me. Jiang Rui stopped. He came closer, and only then did I see the anger on his face. Why did you bring up breaking off the engagement in the great hall just now? I probably made him lose face. I clenched my fingers and laughed in extreme anger. Why not? Ji Yanchen's expression froze. He coughed lightly and slowed his speech. This matter could have been resolved perfectly. I never said I didn't want you. When I was little, waiting for Ji Yanchen to go to school together, I once saw a matchmaker in red clothes entering through the side door of his house. I asked him in confusion, why does one enter through the side door for a wedding? He said huffily, that is a concubine my father is taking. Only the legitimate wife can enter through the main door. After Ji Yanchen's father took a concubine, he treated his birth mother poorly, and before long his mother died of melancholy. When his birth mother died, Ji Yanchen glared viciously in the direction of the concubine and said to me, Ruier, after we get married, I will promise you 1 lifetime. 1 love, just the 2 of us. I will never take a concubine. At that time, I didn't understand and just kept nodding my head desperately to comfort him. But now, what does he mean by saying this? I let out a cold laugh. General Ji, back when your birth mother was driven to death by the concubine, you promised me 1 lifetime, 1 love, just the 2 of us. Yet now you are asking me to compromise? Thinking of the past, Ji Yanchen's face turned deathly pale, and he staggered half a step, unsteady on his feet. I turned around, straightening my spine. I am the legitimate daughter of the Prime Minister. I will never share a husband with another woman in this lifetime. As I turned to leave, I vaguely heard Ji Yanchen say from behind me with a trembling voice, Fine, don't regret this. From now on, we will never see each other again and have nothing to do with one another. In the end, the emperor did grant my request to break off the engagement. After that, rumors about me and Ji Yanchen kept spreading, most of them saying I didn't know what was good for me. Well, they're not saying it to my face anyway, so let them talk. Early the next morning, father summoned me to his study. I thought it was because of the rumors, and that father was going to scold me. When I arrived at the study, father's expression was somewhat grave. Seeing me enter, he pointed to a stool. Sit! Feeling uneasy, I spoke first. Father, are you blaming me? Father shook his head and said, Back when Ji Yanchen brought that woman back with such fanfare, I was only afraid you wouldn't be able to get over it. Now that you've taken the initiative to break off the engagement, as your father I am more than happy. He sighed. My daughter should be happy. I looked up and saw that father's temples had already grown much white hair. Instantly, a wave of bitterness surged into my heart. Father told me that the emperor wanted to weaken his authority. The old ministers who had fought together to establish the dynasty, now he was beginning to fear them. In my previous life, it was because I insisted on marrying Ji Yanchen that completely panicked the emperor, causing all 52 members of my prime minister's household to be killed overnight. When I found Ji Yanchen in Su Xiaoxiao's room with my pregnant belly, He only glanced at me and ordered people to drag me away. In the end, I could only watch as my parents' corpses were thrown into the mass grave. I told father, "Your daughter has a solution." Father was startled and said, "Let's hear it." Publicly, father could agree to all of the emperor's demands to dispel his concerns. "Leave the rest to me." Father had lived to such an age and seen through everything. Regarding my proposal, he stroked his beard. "Good, my daughter has grown up." I tilted my head and smiled at father. He patted my head, just like when I was little. After a long while, he sighed. "It is just a pity that if we retire to our hometown, your marriage prospects will likely be delayed as well. In this life, I only want to fulfill my filial duties at my parents' knees. I don't want a lover, nor do I want wealth and glory. Ruier only wants to stay by father and mother's side for a lifetime." Father said nonsense with his mouth, but his face bloomed with a smile. Coming out of father's study, I called over a few servants and went out. The carriage stopped at a secluded street corner, and I got off. Even in this sparsely populated alley, there were still people who recognized me, their whispered gossip reaching my ears. "Look, isn't that the Prime Minister's daughter? I heard she was publicly rejected from her engagement. How come she doesn't look sad?" Naturally, she'd restrain herself in broad daylight. Who knows if she secretly sheds tears in the dead of night? The servant beside me rolled up his sleeves, about to rush forward. Samanon from the upper floor of a pavilion suddenly interjected. "Who says the Prime Minister's daughter should be sad? I think it was General G who let her down in the first place." Others looked at that person in surprise, finding it quite strange, and didn't continue the conversation. I looked up toward the voice and saw a man with ink-black hair in dark robes, tall and crane-like in stature, holding a folding fan and gazing into the distance. "Guest, would you like some tea?" the waiter called out. I didn't have time to look further and turned to enter a tea house. Me mother's maiden family was originally a famous merchant household in the Jiangnan region. When they moved with father to the capital, they concealed their identity for fear of being ridiculed. Now that the emperor has begun to take action, father's retirement and return to his hometown is a matter of sooner or later. To live better in the future, I still need to earn more money to have something to fall back on. After walking around the area a few times, I bought out all the nearby shops. Those shop owners took the money and looked at me with puzzled expressions, wanting to say something but holding back for fear I'd change my mind. Finally, they sighed, packed up their things, and ran off faster than rabbits. One by one, this place wasn't a busy market area, with few people around, so business was already hard to do. They were just worrying about having no buyers when this unlucky fool, came along. But I didn't see it that way. My mother's family had been in this business for hundreds of years. Starting with just a shoulder pole, they grew bigger and bigger by relying on sincerity and dedication. I believe that good wine needs no bush. Besides, I had my own selfish reasons. When I leave later, I won't be able to take all those people from the Prime Minister's residence with me, so these shops can be left for them to manage. After returning, I worked hard to learn the art of tea from my mother. In my previous life, I devoted all my attention to Ji Yanqin, spending every day thinking about how to make him look at me one more time. Now that I don't need to care about him, I only hope to earn more money so I can freely travel the mountains and waters in the future. How delightful that would be. I studied diligently, and finally mastered the art of tea pretty well. When the shop opened for business, I set up Zhangyan's famous Qiluo tea on the main street for passers-by to taste. Qiluo had a refreshing and slightly sweet taste, and was deeply loved by everyone. Soon the market opened up, and striking while the iron was hot, I leased the nearby farmland to grow tea. Just over a month passed, and the rumors about me and Jian Chen in the neighborhood vanished overnight, as if they'd never existed. Everyone who saw me would ask me for a cup of tea. That evening when I returned home, father and mother were sitting in my room waiting for me. Ruier Long County has been suffering from drought for over a month. The emperor is sending me there to oversee things. Father took a sip of tea. I can't quite describe the feeling, just that my heart was pounding wildly. Mother patted my hand to comfort me. When your father returns, we'll have him resign from his official position, and we'll all go back to Jiangnan together. I thought about it in a few more months. Once the tea shop matures, I can sell it off. Father, you must be careful on this trip. With me at home, you can rest assured. Father nodded with a smile, then turned to look at Mother, saying with satisfaction, "Our daughter has truly grown up." I never could have imagined that this trip would nearly become the last time I'd see Father. On this day, the weather was clear. I went to the countryside estate to check on the harvest, but halfway there, a torrential rain suddenly started. I had no choice but to take shelter in a nearby tea house. Just as I took a sip of hot tea, I heard voices coming from downstairs. Through the railing, I could see clearly. I saw a servant kneeling on the ground, crying out continuously, "Master, this lowly one was wrong. This lowly one drank and messed up. Please have mercy." As he spoke, he swung his fist at his own face. Just watching made it seem painful. That young master, with his back to me, set down his teacup and asked with a laugh, "I asked you to catch Miss Yi, and you even managed to lose her. What use are you?" He was clearly asking with a smile, yet it sounded chillingly unsettling. "This lowly one deserves death. This lowly one will go search right away." That young master said this, and kicked the person away with one foot. Scram! I shook my head. Looks like he is a dissolute young master. Perhaps my gaze was too intense. The person downstairs turned to look over. As our eyes met, I was stunned for a moment. I thought someone like Jian Chen was already a top-tier handsome man. But this person's features were like a painting, actually much better looking than Jian Chen. Seen enough? His tone was casual, as if we were friends running into each other just greeting. I was momentarily choked up, stammering back, sorry." After saying that, the person turned and left. Just when I thought I'd never see this person again, I ran into him once more at the countryside estate. The sun refracted through the emerald tea trees, creating a beautiful arc, the surroundings enveloped in the fragrance of tea. I was just pinching a leaf to examine it. Suddenly a person emerged from the tea garden, in dark-colored robes, the hem swaying in the wind, like a deity from heaven. Taking a closer look, Tatsk, bad luck. Isn't this that dissolute young master? Just as I was about to call someone to chase him away, I heard the old woman who came running over explain, "Miss, he is Shenmo from the Tea and Horse Bureau, here on official orders to inspect." I was puzzled. It is just a minor tea and horse bureau. Should I be afraid of him? Unexpectedly, the old woman muttered another sentence. How strange. He was originally the Crown Prince's tutor, yet for some reason he was sent here to do this work? I suddenly understood, as if having an epiphany. Even though Father had been endlessly tolerant, the Emperor still wasn't at ease and sent someone to monitor us. Whether it is true or not, I need to stay alert. Suddenly Shenmo beckoned me over, then unfastened his sleeve, revealing a wound on his arm. "Miss, do you have anything to stop the bleeding?" This wound was probably cut on the tea tree earlier, and was now seeping spots of blood. For a civil official to do such things was indeed asking too much of him. I called someone to bring medicine and carefully applied it for him, but my hand shook and all the medicinal powder spilled on him. He raised an eyebrow, his eyes carrying a hint of amusement. "With only this much courage, how could you run the tea shop so well?" I suspected he was mocking me, and retorted, unwilling to back down. "I am only shy because you are good-looking. It is not that I am timid." There was a moment of dead silence in the air. After a while Shenmo said, "You are quite straightforward, aren't you?" I couldn't tell for a moment whether he was praising or criticizing me, so I could only focus on applying his medicine with my head down. After applying the medicine, Shenmo stood up and lowered his sleeve, making me accompany him for a few rounds around the estate before he was willing to leave. After that, I could often see Shenmo's figure at the tea shop. When I was busy, he would always sit at a guest table drinking tea, sometimes even bringing some preserved fruits and pastries. I would thank him in person each time, then give everything to the servants in one go. Just thinking about how ruthless he was that day when he had his servant grab the girl made her feel this person's thoughts were unfathomable. Coming out of the tea house, she saw Ji Yanchen bringing Su Xiaoxiao out from another shop. She'd heard Su Xiaoxiao had long since moved into the general's manor. She was dressed extremely lavishly, looking just like a general's wife. The two of them standing together actually looked quite well matched. She smiled with curved eyes, chiding playfully. I had the kitchen stew chicken soup for the general. It is all Jiang Rui's father's fault. His corruption has troubled our general so. I stumbled and nearly fell. Fortunately Yunxiang caught me. Me father has been upright and honest all these years. How could he possibly be corrupt? They looked up and saw me. Xiao Xiao said directly, "Oh my, isn't this the Prime Minister's daughter that the general doesn't want?" I had no time to bother with her and blocked Ji Yanchen directly. What happened to my father? Ji Yanchen lowered his eyes, hesitating. The Prime Minister he? I shouted sharply. Speak! What happened to my father? Ji Yanchen pressed his lips together. Your father was detained by the censorate for corruption. He paused, then continued. In the imperial court, I have little influence. In other words, he clearly knew my father was wronged but didn't say a word. Ji Yanchi really has selfishness carved into his very bones. In the previous life, when the female lead had a difficult childbirth and was dying, he said, "If she dies, she dies." In this life, when the female lead's father was wrongly imprisoned, he knew the truth but chose to stand by and watch, because he was afraid of getting into trouble. His so-called being powerless due to low status wasn't inability at all. It was clearly his unwillingness to take even the slightest risk for the female lead, throwing even basic morality behind him. He once promised the female lead, one lifetime, one love, one person, making her wait faithfully for him for 3 years. But when the time came for him to step up, he became the most cowardly bystander. Just as tears were about to fall, I turned and ran home. As soon as I got home, Mother was like an ant on a hot pan, pacing back and forth. Seeing me, she rushed over as if seeing hope, crying as she said, "Ruier, something happened to your father." I took a deep breath and put on a smiling face to greet her. "Mother, don't worry. Father will be fine. He didn't do it, so we have nothing to fear." I gently comforted Mother. Mother's eyes brimmed with tears as she asked doubtfully, "Your father will really be okay?" I nodded emphatically. Seeing how certain I was, Mother finally felt at ease. I glanced at Mother's maidservant, and she was quite clever. She quickly helped Mother back to her room to rest. In truth, I didn't know who was pulling strings behind the scenes this time. Was it the Emperor or someone else? I had even less idea whether Father could actually make it through this ordeal. Ji Yanchen sent someone over to ask if I needed his help, but I directly refused. If he really wanted to help, why didn't he speak up at court? The servant I sent out came back to report that the drought in Long County was severe, all because the disaster relief funds didn't arrive in time. The Emperor was furious and had my father thrown into prison. But the disaster relief funds weren't in my father's custody. After thinking it over, the only explanation is that the Emperor wants to make an example out of someone, to let those old ministers who helped him conquer the realm understand that this realm belongs to him. I can't let Father die unjustly. I need to find evidence. The day I went to the archives, the sky poured with rain, drenching me completely. "Miss, you cannot enter without a token." The eunuch guarding the archives blocked me with a dark expression. I took out the token I stole from Shen Mo and handed it over. Lord Shen ordered me to come find some things. When the little eunuch heard it was Shen Mo, he deliberated for a while, but still let me in. After asking about the location of recent ledgers, I walked over by myself. I remember Father saying that this time the disaster relief money and accounts were kept by separate people, and he was only responsible for recording the silver spent. The Emperor acted too quickly. I am afraid the archives still have the ledger Father wrote. As long as I find that ledger, I can clear Father's name. But after searching the bookshelf for a long time, I couldn't find that ledger. Just as I was getting a headache, I caught a glimpse of father's name out of the corner of my eye. I just reached out my hand. It is not there. A low voice suddenly came from behind me. It scared me so much my heart nearly jumped out of my chest. I recognized that voice. It was Shenmo. He approached from behind me, a shadow instantly looming over, my back pressed against his front. Through our clothes, the warmth from his body transmitted to mine thread by thread. The warm temperature made me momentarily forget to keep some distance from him. I thought I'd dropped my token here, never imagined it would be coveted by a certain little thief. He spoke in a gentle voice. Not a hint of blame could be heard. Yet my heart trembled. Shenmo is really too skilled. He clearly saw through the female lead's little scheme, but didn't expose it, only using a gentle tone to point out the stealing the token matter, both giving the female lead a way out, and quietly warming up their relationship. This kind of cunning yet tender push and pull is more intoxicating than a straightforward confession. The female lead, having lived a second life, is cautious about feelings. And Shenmo's appearance is like an inadvertent warm sun, quietly melting her defenses. I was caught red-handed like a thief, unable to squeeze out any words for a moment. The atmosphere fell silent for a time. Shenmo leaned down close to my ear and whispered, "Don't panic, I didn't come here for this today." He quietly handed over the account book. I was startled and looked up to meet his eyes that seemed to smile yet didn't. "Why aren't you taking it quickly?" There was no time to think about why he wanted to help me. Right now I had to seize the time to rescue father. "Thank you." I braved the heavy rain to deliver the evidence to the residents of the Court of Judicial Review's Vice Minister. Uncle Shah used to be father's student. Father appreciated his abilities and always intended to promote him, though of course it was also thanks to his own hard work that he climbed up step by step. Seeing me arrive, he opened the main gate to welcome me. "Uncle, whether father can safely clear his name this time depends entirely on you." I knelt down and kowtowed to him. "Don't worry, I will definitely see this matter through to the end and absolutely won't let my teacher suffer unjust blame." I anxiously waited at home for 3 days. On the 4th day, father was finally released and returned home. He seemed to have aged several more years, his eyes full of vicissitudes. Such a meticulous person, yet now he didn't even care that his clothes were stained with filth. Mother rushed over to him. "It is good that you are all right. It is good that you are all right." Father patted her shoulder and forced a smile that looked even worse than crying. "Having gone through this, I've also come to understand. I am old now. From now on, let the matters of the court be left to the younger generation." I wiped my tears with the back of my hand and nodded. "Yes, father, mother, just enjoy your retirement in peace. You still have your daughter." After father returned home, mother finally stopped pestering me to keep her company. To thank Shenmo for his help, early the next morning I had a servant deliver a letter to his residence. We agreed to meet at the 3:15 noon at my tea shop, but half a shichen had already passed and there was still no sign of him. I went out to look for him. Because of the heavy rain today, there weren't many pedestrians on the road. Just as I reached the alley entrance, the sound of horse hooves rang in my ears. Thinking it was Shenmo, I hurriedly turned back to look. The coachman on the carriage had a fierce and menacing face. For some reason, I suddenly felt he was coming for me. I quickened my pace and desperately ran into the alley. However, this wasn't a bustling market area to begin with, and after several days of rain, several shops had their doors closed. Just as I was about to reach the tea house, a hand grabbed my clothes and threw me violently into a carriage. I fell onto something hard and passed out directly. When I woke up, I was already lying in a rundown temple outside the city. A cunning voice sounded in my ears. "We brothers hit the jackpot today. This chick looks pretty damn good. We'll make money and get to have some fun too. I'll go first later." "Yeah? Sure thing. Sure thing." The other person chimed in with a sleazy grin on his face. "It seems someone is trying to harm me, but who could it be?" I swallowed and tentatively spoke up. "Bro, is it about money? I can pay you double." The two exchanged glances, and after pondering for a moment, one of them said, It is not that we brothers don't want to make money, but there are rules in this business, and the other party is paying well. They only want your innocence, so we don't need to go that far. Looks like there is no room for negotiation. Another person came closer, holding a dagger to lift open my outer garment, licking his lips with lustful eyes. Don't say your brother doesn't care for you. The one who bought your virginity is a woman. I held back my disgust and said nothing more. He thought I was scared. The big man had just reached out his hand when suddenly the sound of horse hooves rang out, and then the temple door was kicked open. Who is there? His good time interrupted? The big man irritably raised his head. I seized the timing and stabbed the hairpin in my palm straight into his chest. He fell to the ground with a thud. Shen Mo subdued the other person in just a few moves with his sword, then walked toward me. You are quite capable, aren't you? It wasn't that I was capable living this life over again. I was just desperately trying to survive. Just as Shen Mo finished speaking, his gaze fell on my snow-white neck, and the tips of his ears suddenly turned red. He turned his head away and said nothing more. I glanced at the big man lying on the ground, blood pooling everywhere. The other person, clutching his chest where Shen Mo had kicked him, took the opportunity to run outside. Forget it. He probably won't get far anyway. I pulled my clothes together. How did Lord Shen find this place? When I arrived at the tea shop, I heard Yunxiang say you went looking for me, so I chased after you. I happened to see you being abducted and followed all the way here. After speaking, Shen Mo leaned over, his large hand scooping around my waist and lifting me up in one motion. Pardon the impropriety, but in case they have more accomplices, we need to leave here quickly. A pleasant ink fragrance drifted over. At this critical moment, I couldn't worry about such things and hooked my arms around his neck. But the moment we stepped outside, his words proved prophetic. 4 or 5 men in black instantly surrounded us. The big guy who just ran away glared at us, then said through gritted teeth to the black-clad men beside him, "Brothers, these two killed Big Brother. Don't let them get away." Several black-clad men glanced this way, and instantly a wave of killing intent filled the air around us. I sucked in a breath of cold air. Am I going to die here today? Just as I was thinking this, Shen Mo's low voice sounded by my ear. Hold on tight to me. If you are scared, close your eyes. I rolled my eyes. He is just a civil official. What happened earlier was probably just a fluke. Does he really think he is some brave and battle-hardened general? The next second, I was slapped hard in the face with reality. Shen Mo suddenly leapt into the air, taking me with him as he jumped onto the beams, pulling several throwing darts from his pocket and flinging them at the black-clad men. In the blink of an eye, several black-clad men were hit by the darts and fell to the ground. Taking advantage of the chaos, Shen Mo leapt out with me, jumped onto a horse, and galloped away. I don't know how long we rode. In the darkness, all my senses were infinitely magnified. I could clearly feel Shen Mo's well-proportioned muscles, radiating traces of warmth in the bitterly cold autumn night. And at this moment, my head was full of what that black-clad man had said woman. A vague idea was forming in my mind, but I still didn't quite dare to believe it. Shen Mo suddenly stopped and asked in a deep voice, "Had enough of holding on?" I looked down and saw that our current position was indeed overly intimate. I hastily let go of my arms around his waist. Sorry. After dismounting, I suddenly noticed his face looked terrible. Upon closer inspection, blood was continuously seeping out from his lower leg. I frowned and said anxiously, "You are bleeding." Before Shen Mo could say anything, his whole body swayed and collapsed. It seemed the injury was quite serious. I exerted great effort to drag him to a nearby dilapidated house, found clean cloth to wipe the blood off his body, and bandaged his right leg properly. After he woke up, he looked himself up and down and asked, "Where are my clothes?" The look in his eyes clearly suggested that I had done something unspeakable to him. What on earth was going through this person's mind? Seeing him like this, I suddenly felt the urge to tease him. I swept my eyes over him from top to bottom and said playfully, "There is only the two of us here. Feel free to imagine boldly." Shen Mo's expression stiffened. and his face suddenly turned as red as cooked shrimp. Combined with his fair-skinned, handsome face, it made him look radiant. I couldn't help but burst out laughing. Just as I was about to explain what actually happened, Shenmo unexpectedly pulled me to sit beside him. He leaned close to my ear and whispered, "Today I saved Miss Jiang once again. And this is how you thank me?" At such close distance, the pleasant ink fragrance from his body suddenly invaded my nostrils. Though it was clearly a reproach, I detected a hint of delight in his tone. I suppressed the burning sensation on my face and explained calmly, "To be honest with you, you took off your clothes yourself before passing out yesterday." He let out an "oh," the disappointment on his face plain as day. I sighed. "What, are you disappointed?" Shenmo said indifferently. "This humble one is lying here like this, yet the young lady remains unmoved. Isn't that this humble one's failure?" Suddenly, someone's stomach let out a growling sound. Our eyes met. "I'll go out and find some fruit." His leg was injured, so this task could only be done by me. Although there was a house here, it was in the middle of nowhere. With Shenmo's leg now injured, he'd probably have to stay for a while before he could go back. By the time I returned, Shenmo had already dressed himself and was staring out the window in a daze, seeing me enter. He looked up at me. "I am injured, and you are only giving me this to eat." I put down the fruit in my hand with a thud. "If you are gonna complain, go find food yourself." Shenmo wisely kept quiet. When night fell, there was only one shabby bed in the run-down house. To let Shenmo rest better, I gave up the bed. I was lying on the table tossing and turning when Shenmo cleared his throat lightly. "You can sleep on the bed. I am injured." I suddenly remembered the scene from our first meeting and blurted out what was on my mind. "I don't want to become a second Miss Yi." Shenmo seemed to be thinking. Then after a long while he suddenly laughed. "So you think I am some kind of lecher?" I tacitly said nothing, then immediately heard an exasperated voice from that side. "Miss Yi is my student. She often sneaks out of the school to avoid studying, so that is why I had people watching her. Even though he saved me, that doesn't mean I have to trust him." I still didn't speak. Shenmo sighed. "Miss Jiang, if you sleep on the table, I've heard those rats all come out at night." "Fine." I got up and walked toward the bed. I quickly lifted the corner of the blanket and slipped into the covers. Shenmo by the pillow held his breath and stayed still, as if he had frozen. I don't sleep well, so bear with me. After giving him that mental preparation, I closed my eyes and peacefully drifted into sleep. Early the next morning, the space beside me was already empty. I could only hear the sound of Shenmo washing his face outside. Seeing me come out, Shenmo's face was still tinged with red as he explained, "It is so hot. I am washing my face." I glanced at the white frost covering the trees outside, but didn't call out his lie. 4 more days passed. Shenmo's leg injury improved, so we set off to return. To avoid drawing attention, once we entered the city we went our separate ways. As soon as I stepped into the house, Mother grabbed my hand and checked me over from top to bottom. Only after confirming I was fine did she relax with a sigh of relief. "Ruier, you weren't the 4 words defiled." Mother dared not speak aloud, but I understood her meaning. I shook my head. "Mother, I am fine." Mother had someone prepare water and food, and I slept comfortably. The next day, Su Xiaoxiao heard about my incident and came to visit. Yunsheng slammed down the towel. "She talks nicely, but I think she just came to show off." A few days ago when they got married, it was a grand affair with a 10-mile bridal procession. After speaking, he glanced at my expression. "Miss, don't be angry." I continued drinking my tea. I am not angry. If they hadn't come today, I would have almost forgotten about these people. They came at just the right time I needed to confirm some things. Xiao Xiao rushed up to me as soon as she came in, wiping away tears that didn't even exist with her handkerchief. "I heard you were kidnapped for several days, sister. The general sent me to check on you. Are you hurt?" She used to call me older sister, but now that she is married to Ji Yanchen, she calls me younger sister. I smiled without warmth. Thank you for your concern, General's wife. I am fine, but I heard you were alone with Lord Shenmo for several days. I walked up to her with a smile on my face and slapped her twice across the face. She covered her face in disbelief, and the room fell silent for a moment. I am the General's wife. How dare you? I am going to tell the General. Go ahead. Even if Ji Yanshin were here today, I'd still dare to hit you. I only just returned yesterday. So how did you know the complete details of my abduction today? Do you really think I don't know anything? My abduction this time is definitely related to her. It is just that Su Xiaoxiao alone wouldn't have the capability to dare make a move against both me and Shen Mo at the same time. Who exactly is it? As expected, Su Xiaoxiao's eyes darted away evasively, mumbling something under her breath that I couldn't make out, then pulled her maid along to leave. A few days later, Shen Mo came to the tea house to tell me that he had caught the person who abducted us. The result was within expectations, but Shen Mo not only found out that this matter was Su Xiaoxiao's doing, he also followed the trail and dug out her true identity. It turned out Su Xiaoxiao was a spy from Anan Kingdom. Getting close to Jian Chen back then was merely to help her beloved enemy prince extract secrets. I heard that when the emperor learned of this, he flew into a rage and ordered Su Xiaoxiao to be executed by 5 horses tearing her body apart. Considering Ji Yanshin knew nothing about it, the emperor only demoted him. Ji Yanshin probably never imagined that the woman he cherished so much would deceive him to this extent. A few days later, I was preparing to go to the tea shop. Just as I opened the door, Ji Yanshin stood at the entrance with dark circles under his eyes. Seeing me come out, he rushed over with reddened eyes. Ruier, these past few days, I keep dreaming of the past. I've realized I've always loved you. From now on, let me protect you. Okay? Thinking of all the past events, I only felt it was ironic. Did Ji Yanshin still think that the harm he caused me could be erased with just a few nice words? I looked at him indifferently. Wake up, General Ji. You and I have no connection in this lifetime anymore. After saying that, I turned and left. After that day, I heard Ji Yanshin voluntarily propose to the emperor to guard the frontier, never to return to the capital in this lifetime. After more than a month, the tea shop's business gradually stabilized, and father resigned from his official position to the emperor. I handed over all the shop's affairs and followed my parents back to our hometown in Jiangnan. The carriage moved slowly forward. My parents and I chatted and laughed cheerfully inside, and a long-lost smile appeared on father's face. Little yellow birds hopped and chirped outside the window. The scorching afternoon sunlight filtered through the banyan leaves into the carriage, casting shimmering ripples of light. Suddenly the carriage came to an abrupt halt. I stuck my head out and asked, "What is wrong?" The coachman pointed ahead at a man riding a fine horse. Shenmo turned around, his smile radiant and brilliant. "Miss Jiang, I have nowhere to go. May I travel with you all?" I froze for a moment, then replied, "Suit yourself. The road's wide enough. I can't stop you anyway, Lord Shen." Shenmo said with a smile full of meaning. "Then I'll take that as a yes." Just as he spoke, a little eunuch came running up from behind, calling out in a shrill voice, "Lord Shen, please wait." Shenmo looked in the direction of the voice. The little eunuch was panting heavily. "The crown prince told me to ask Lord Shen, where are you going, and will you be coming back?" Shenmo said coolly, "I have more important matters to attend to." "What matters?" He glanced at me, then continued, "Starting a family, taking a wife." I was stunned for a moment. When I looked up again, I saw Shenmo's bright eyes seemingly radiating starlight. Time passed swiftly, and in the blink of an eye it was spring again. On the day Shenmo and I got married, he lifted my veil, placed my hand over his heart, and smiled tenderly. "Ruier, meeting you is the luckiest thing that has ever happened to me in this life." Then Shenmo leaned down and kissed my lips. How fortunate I am to live again and meet the love of my life. After Shenmo and Zhang Rui get married, what life path will they choose? Give up all court connections and settle with Zhang Rui in the landscapes of Jiangnan, running a tea house while traveling around B. Accept the crown prince's invitation, Return to the capital to assist the new emperor, with Zhang accompanying as a virtuous wife, occasionally offering counsel to the court C. Take Jiang Rui to the frontier to pay respects to Jianchen, settle past grievances, then retreat to the mountains D. Use his own connections and Jiang Rui's business resources to secretly support the loyal and upright while striking down the treacherous.